going on, fam? Welcome to the very first episode of Why Black Men Teach. This is a podcast where we're going to dig deep into real talk experiences of Black male educators across the country. I'm your host, your boy, Dr. Rashad Anderson. I'm the director of the Call Me Mr. program here at MSU Denver. And honestly, we lit over here. We so excited for the possibilities of this show. This podcast is going to be about telling stories from real Black male educators who wake up every day and do this work, not just to teach, but to change lives because they're called to this work. My hope that a young man watching this sees himself in these stories, that he hears something today that makes him think, you know what, maybe this is a calling for me too. So sit back and let's chop it up. Now, for our very first show, I can't think of a better first guest than Colorado's first Black man to ever receive the State Teacher of the Year award in 2023. He is currently an award-winning music teacher in Aurora Public Schools, a vet in this game, a legend in Colorado, and a true inspiration, my frat brother, Mr. Jimmy Day. Thank you for coming on the show. How are you today?
Oh, I'm good. Thank you for having me, Dr. Anderson. So glad to be here.
I love that. I love that. And it's on a Saturday and you ventured out here in the cold. I'm from the South, but I know most Coloradan people, they said that this is not really cold.
Well, I'm from Detroit, so this really don't matter to me. This is
So you already used to it.
Yeah, I'm used to it. I lived a few years in the South at going to Tennessee State and stuff like that, so I had to readjust to the cold moving out this way.
Where do you go for undergrad?
Tennessee State University.
Okay.
Yeah, for my undergrad. Yeah, marched in the Tennessee State University Aristocratic Bands, euphonium player, and then I got my master's at Trevecca Nazarene. That's in Nashville as well.
Okay, so how long you been in Colorado?
So I've been here since 2017.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're a pro.
Yeah.
You're a pro.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to start the conversation by talking about your journey. Like, when you were in elementary, middle school, high school, did you always see yourself being a teacher, or was it something that kind of came late in the game? Like, how did you get to this point?
So never wanted to be a teacher. Never aspired to be a teacher. My mom, however, was a parapro.
Okay.
So, that was about as close to education that I got, but still never just wanted to be in education, never thought about it. Growing up, I wanted to be an architect, but it turns out you got to be good at math to be an architect. But that's something that came later on down the line. I would say my fourth year at Tennessee State, because after I tried to be an architect, then realized it wasn't for me, then I tried to go into another major, which was fashion merchandising. And it was just trying to find myself. I just didn't know. I knew what I needed to do, but I think I kept shying away from going in that direction. And I know my mom always used to tell me, Jimmy, you just need to major in music. This is what you do. You're good at it. And the reason why I didn't really want to go into it, because back in Detroit at Cass Technical High School, we had curriculums, right, that we studied, kind of like college, right? And so my curriculum was avocational music. And so I did music for 9, 10, 11, 12. I wanted to do something different. Yeah. Wanted to get out of that and see what else is out there. But I think my destiny was to go in the direction of education, and it didn't really hit me up until when I finally changed my major to music. My fourth year, I can't say my senior year, but my fourth year at Tennessee State. I know Dr. McDonald, who was the band director there at the time, used to always try to coerce me to be a music major, just a music major. And he was like, you spend all your time over here in the music building. Why are you not a music major? You need to think about it. So I eventually thought about it and said, fine, I'm going to be a music major. It wasn't until we had a practicum that I had to do, and when we had to go and observe other music teachers and watch how they teach, and in some cases help out with the students too. Mm-hmm. And I was in a situation where I was at a middle school, and the band director was like, hey, I have this trombone player. He is really struggling. So can you help me out with him, knowing that my background was low brass? I said, well, sure. And I took him in the practice room and I assessed the situation, asked him to play something for me out of his method book, and he was playing wrong notes. And I looked at it and realized that, oh, you just have your notes labeled wrong. So let's fix this. So we went through it, fixed it. He started playing the exercise right because nobody don't want to be the kid in the band room playing the wrong notes all the time, right? Nobody wants to be that kid. So he so he got excited because he's like, oh wow, I finally know what I'm doing. Wow. And like instantly he became so invested. He was so happy that just something that little that I was able to help him with. And that is what sparked that passion for teaching. And so, like I said, that was my 4th year at Tennessee State University, and I was like, I found my passion, I found my purpose, this is what I want to do. And so, it's been history after that.
I love that's a good story. It kind of reminds me of like my background. I'm in music, was low brass, got my start in middle school in trombone, and in high school I saw a movie, Drumline. Drumline changed my life. Didn't know what an HBCU was. Saw it and like I want to go to a HBCU, and it blew my mind because it's like you can go to college and major in music and get paid for this. Like I really want to do that. How was your experience going to a HBCU and being a music major? How was all of that?
It's an experience that you won't get anywhere else.
Facts.
You know, just plain and simple. You won't get that experience anywhere else. But I mean, going to HBCU was fun. I know going to a HBCU also taught me Southern hospitality. Going to a HBCU taught me how to be, or how not to be rude. You know, I'm from the North, so we don't speak to each other much. You know what I'm saying? We see you, we keep it moving. Yeah. And so it wasn't until one day somebody spoke to me and I kind of looked at him like, are you talking to me? And he kind of went on me like, dude, somebody spoke to you, like you need to speak back. That's what, so I just kind of understood like that is what it was in the South. I've learned to say sir, ma'am, because that was real big down in the South, you know. So a lot of those, you know, type of Southern hospitality things I learned being down there. And I think it kind of made me to be more of a, you know, a well-rounded individual. Being in the band, shoot, man, late nights, early mornings. And on top of that, you still had to stay on top of your studies, you know, or you would, you know, lose your scholarship. And just to be open, I lost my scholarship because around that time I had my son. And so I just kind of just backslid in school and grades ended up dropping, ended up losing my scholarship, but thankfully I was able to get financial aid to kind of push through. But it's fun. It's fun. Being in the band allowed me to go many places that I probably would have never traveled. It allowed me to really link up and be friends with some folks that I'm still friends with to today. Right. And some of us are, you know, when I taught in Memphis my first few years, you know, some of them, my band members were also band directors down in Memphis. So you can just imagine the, you know, the camaraderie down there, the competition, we just talking mess to each other and our bands blowing at each other. But it was all love at the end of the day because we all went and marched in the same band. And, you know, it was just fun. Like I said, it was just a totally different experience that you would never get.
I agree. As a former HBCU grad, yeah, it's an experience that you can't get anywhere. But so you go from this HBCU, started teaching, I guess, in predominantly black schools, and now you make that transition to Colorado, where there are not many black folks here to begin with at all. And then when we look at black male teachers, you know, there are 55,000 teachers in the state, but about 300 of those identify as black men. So it can be a real isolating experience. What was that transition like for you in going in predominantly black spaces and now you're in Denver, Colorado? What do you think that experience taught you?
I think that was one of the first things that I realized is when I looked at my students, I'm used to looking at a class of maybe 95, 96% of black students.
Yeah.
Well, and then I might have my 5 to 7% of my Hispanic students, and then a couple percent of others. But it was flip flop. You know, the black kids were the 5 and 6% in the classroom. The Hispanics were like the 95 to 90, percent. And that kind of shell shocked me a little bit. And I don't think I realized that until one day I think I just opened up my vision and just looked and was like, wow. And once I realized what I was, teaching, and it really didn't bother me in a way. It's just that, okay, the demographic is just switched now. But I'm gonna still cook. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna still do my thing. I'm gonna still teach, and I'm gonna still be an impact on students' lives.
What do you think that does for a kid that does not look like you, never probably been exposed to a black male before, probably has no idea about black culture? What do you think that does for a kid who now they have Jimmy Day as their teacher for the year? What do you think that does for kids that don't look like you?
I think it may broaden their horizons. I think it may give them like a peek into what my culture is. They see this black guy teaching them every day, and in some ways, I'm giving them a piece of my culture because I'm a black man. I'm a black man, and I'm teaching. And I'm taking stuff from my background and from my experience and putting it into my teaching. So they're getting it. And in most cases, they love it. They love it, and they really appreciate it. And I mean, I still have students, like non-black students, who email me saying how appreciative they are of me teaching them and stuff like that. So I think they really enjoy it. I think they really enjoy it. And I might bring a different type of, style to, the classroom.
Yeah, I think it goes a long way when we have teachers of color that are in a school building with students that don't look like them. I think that teaches a lot about dismantling racism because you're no longer learning about the other from the news or what you see on TV and the characters that you see, all around you. Now you have this direct experience with somebody from another community, and it debunks that whole myth of the other. Like it makes them seem more real.
Yeah.
So I love that. How many years has you been in the classroom now?
So this is my 16th year teaching.
Oh, you a vet.
Yeah.
16.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot. And reflecting back in the 16 years in the classroom, has there been an aha moment for you that made you say, yeah, I'm walking in my purpose. This is definitely my calling?
There's many, and it's kind of hard to really dwindle it down. But I think the moment comes when I don't teach my students anymore, right? You sit there and you teach them, and you mold them, and you shape them, and you teach them. And then when they go off, like to high school, or when they become a part of the real world, and then they send you stuff back. Thank you for teaching me. Thank you for showing me this. Thank you for being hard on me. Thank you for being dedicated to me. That's when I'm like, I'm in my purpose. That's when I'm in my purpose, right? And there's many days where I end my day saying, yeah, this is what I need to do because the impact that I make every day. I mean, from my little elementary kids, I get maybe like 10 high fives, 15 hugs, 22 fist bumps, custom handshakes from a few of my first graders and my middle schoolers. We in there working together and grinding and just, helping them get that aha moment. I think that'd be the time I'd be like, yeah, I know this is my purpose right here. This is my purpose. But I think it really comes to light when they leave me and then they reach back out to me to say how much of an impact I was in their lives.
That's real. I think that a lot of times people think that when we go into the classroom, teachers always imparting lessons upon the students. and it's not a reciprocal process. But students sometimes teach you a lot too. What has your students taught you throughout the years that has transformed you as an educator, as a man? What kind of lessons did you learn from just being with them?
Well, patience. That's the big thing.
Amen. Hey, whoa! Don't get me started.
Yeah.
Don't.
Patience is the biggest thing that I learned. I mean, I had to learn how to have it, especially those times where I couldn't move as fast as I wanted to move, or if something was happening with the student in their personal lives and it affected, how they were in the classroom. And I just had to learn patience. I had to learn empathy, right? I had to understand, like, I couldn't be so obtuse to stuff. I couldn't just be so, focused on, I got to teach this, I got to teach this, I got to teach this. Like, I need to really open my mind and understand what's going on with my students. Let's, trying to figure out strategies or ways to make sure I can still get them to their next level, although they got all this baggage that they bring in with them. You know what I'm saying? So, like I said, patience and empathy, I would say the biggest thing that being in the classroom has taught me.
Okay. So you were named the 2023 Colorado Teacher of the Year, the first Black man to ever get that recognition, and that's crazy that in 2023 that you're the first.
Right.
And that kind of blows my mind sometimes that we are still living in times where we hear these news titles of the first Black man or the first Black woman to get something
right
in these times. But take us back to the day that you realized that you won and that whole experience, because that's pretty huge.
So, man, I have so much fun telling the story all the time. So, the week I was announced, that Friday. It was like the last week of October. I think it was the 27th or the 28th I was announced. But I remember that Wednesday we had a staff meeting. And I was talking, actually, let me go back one day. Tuesday, we had some folks coming in to observe some folks in the classroom, right? And so they was like, hey, Jimmy, they come into your classroom, just letting you know, some folks come in there observing you, just watching you teach, it's nothing, don't worry about it. And I'm like, okay, cool, fine. And I'm in there teaching, I saw them come in, it was like, about 5 or 7 of them that walked in there. They had these suits on. They stood in the back. They looked around. They whispering and talking to each other. And it was funny because it was right at the beginning of our next quarter. So I just had a brand new class of 6th graders and, starting the whole beginning band thing from beginning. This is how you hold the instrument. We was going back from square one. So we doing all that. So, the lesson wasn't just, spectacular and, just a bunch of fireworks all over the place because we're starting from the basics, And so they was in there for a few minutes and then they left. And so I'm thinking, like, out of all the classes, why would they come to this class? Like, so that Wednesday morning after the staff meeting, I was joking with my assistant principal at the time. I was like, why y'all send me in that class with my 6th grader? Y'all know I just got them. I ain't doing really nothing spectacular right now. This is all basic stuff we doing right here. He said, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. They loved everything you was doing, blah, 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 blah. So as I'm talking to him, the principal walks up. And the principal says, Mr. Day, can you do us a favor? I said, what? She said, well, we're having an award ceremony for the students on Friday afternoon. And we would like your band to play something. Now, here we are. I'm like, you asked me to do something in 2 days? 2 days. So instantly, I'm like, let me see what I can do. Let me see what I can do. I said, I'll see if I can come up with something. But if I can't come up with anything, we can't perform. I'm not just about to put anything out there. So I went back, and I'm like, just like, frustrated, and I'm just going off, and I'm just talking to the choir teacher, just, expressing my frustration. Like, how they just gonna throw something on me for I got 2 days to prepare. What am I gonna do? What am I gonna do? So after I got it all off my chest, I sat down and thought about it. I said, okay, well, maybe I can bring some stuff up that they played last year. We'll be fine. And so I told the students, hey, they want us to perform in 2 days. So we're gonna give it a test run. We're gonna pull some of the music out that we played last year. If we still remember everything, we'll play it. If it don't sound good, then we won't. So they was like, okay, fine. They was right along with me. So pulled the music out and we practiced all day Wednesday afternoon. We practiced Thursday, and then so I was like, okay, so I guess we can do it. So I went back to the principal, was like, okay, we'll be able to do a performance for you. She was like, thank you very much, thank you. So like I said, in my mind, I'm thinking we got to perform an award ceremony for some students. So I'm just like, okay. So the day before, I see people in our auditorium working with sound, making sure they can stream. They just working with all this technology, and I'm in there, getting my stuff because I had them practicing in the auditorium because we're performing there the next day. So I wanted them to get a feel of the acoustics in the auditorium. Yeah. And so like everybody looking like weird in there, kind of like trying to be like real secretive and stuff while I'm around. I'm just like, what's going on? So I didn't think none of it. So I'm about to leave for the day, and I open up the auditorium to ask my principal something. She come running to the door like, what you want? And I'll just ask her whatever I need to ask her, and then I left. Wasn't thinking nothing about it. Now this whole time, the next day, Friday afternoon, all my kids had to meet me after lunch. We was gonna warm up in the band room, and he was gonna go to the auditorium and get ready for that. Now, let me back up. We wasn't gonna warm up in my room. We was gonna warm up in the auditorium. They kicked us out the auditorium. Mr. Day, can you please take your kids back to your room and warm them up in there? I'm just like, all right, okay, fine. So we in our room and we warming up and we getting ourselves ready and we doing some run-throughs, getting ready for the performance, bam, bam, bam. And so, pause right there. I'm gonna go back a couple hours. That whole day, it's a whole email thread happening. So we're going to escort Mr. Day and his kids to the auditorium, and we're going to do this. And I'm just like, why they got to escort me to the auditorium? So I'm just like, it was just weird. I'm like, what is all this weird stuff happening? So back to where we were, after we warmed up, I said, oh, y'all go use the restroom, take a bathroom break, because once we're on that stage, nobody's leaving. So we take our break, everybody using the restroom, and I asked one of my students, I said, can you go to the auditorium and check where they are so we know if we need to go around there? So we all in the band room waiting. She comes back and said, Mr. Day, it's 2 students at their door out there. They would not let me out. I'm like, why? I don't know. They said I can't come out there. I said, well, I'm the teacher. I'll go out there and see what's going on. I go out there. So we had our 2 ambassador students right there. And so they just standing there at the door like 2 guards. And I said, can I go through? No, Mr. Day, you can't go through here. Why can't I go through there? Mr. Day, we got direct orders to not let you come through this door. Why? And I'm, here I am being a difficult adult, yeah, getting on these kids. Like, how you gonna tell me I can't come in this room? I'm the teacher, you the student. How you gonna, so I said, you know what? I'm gonna stop being difficult. You must be doing your job. But I asked him, the funny thing was, I said, why? I'm a teacher. Why can I go to this door? Mr. Day, they told us not to ask any questions because we'll get in trouble. But we cannot let you go through this door. Fine. So I walked back in the band room. So they said, so what's up, Mr. Day? I said, they're not going to let me through the door either. So we all had a big laugh about it. So they finally came and got us. I said, okay, y'all, here we go. Let's go to the auditorium. So we walking in line. I sent the kids backstage so they can go and, go to their seats and get ready. And they told me to stand right there. The principal was like, stand right here. I said, stand right here? Okay, fine. So I sent the kids on backstage. And then she said, okay, Jimmy, go ahead and go to the back. So I walked to the back, and as soon as I got to the back of the stage, I hear, in our 2023 Colorado Teacher of the Year, Mr. Jimmy Day. I'm like, what? And so my kids looking like, what? And it's funny because we're behind stage with all the curtains down, so I'm trying to find an opening to the curtain to get to the stage. So I'm like in this big old fight with the curtains. So I finally get through the curtains and go out on the stage, and it's a auditorium full of my students and the superintendent and everybody out there, the commissioner, everybody, giving me a standing ovation. They're presenting me the award. And I'm just, I'm in tears. I just got super emotional because I wasn't expecting it. They told us that we were going to get the announcement on Halloween, but they did it a few days earlier to kind of throw us off the scent. And so as I'm in there thanking everybody, I was like, I cannot wait to go home and tell my wife and my sons about this because, this is a big surprise to me. And I'm talking junk about it because I'm like, I'm the one that's always surprising people and blah, blah, blah. And we going to have fun. We get home, we going to celebrate. And I see everybody pointing and yelling. And they pointing and yelling. They pointing and yelling. My wife and my son on the front row.
Oh man.
I said, oh shoot. So I went running. I ran off the stage like, oh. So I'm like, they in on the shenanigans too. So it was one of the most craziest surprises ever. It was such a beautiful moment. And one of my students got up there and said some nice words about me, and then, they just did this presentation, and and it was just great. It was like, I don't think there has been a moment where it just really got me that emotional, because I'm just like, this is, finally somebody sees me. Mm-hmm. Finally somebody sees that Jimmy Day is cooking over here in this room. Somebody finally see it and somebody finally put it out there. And and yes, the application process was very tedious and stuff, but it was worth it. And the funny part about that, I almost quit the application process because I didn't think I was gonna be able to get some signatures in time. But my wife and my best friend, Jeff, was like, bro, go on up there to Human Resources and get that thing signed so you can do this. And so when I told him, I was like, I got it. He said, think about it, you almost quit. I almost was like, I'm done. I can't do it no more because I thought I wasn't going to be able to get everything. But thankfully, I persevered, got what I needed to get, and boom, that brought me to October 2022 of them announcing me as Teacher of the Year. So, and from that day, it has been a roller coaster ride. Just being able to travel, went to the White House. They had a ceremony for us in the garden, and was able to go and walk on the first floor of the White House, and it was really cool. I was able to go to Space Camp in Huntsville. I met my cohort back in February of 2023, and so they are some of the best people you could ever meet. So I was able to meet some great people, just been able to experience a lot. I was able to be given a platform to speak, able to shed a light on music education and being a black male in education, like all that stuff. I mean, it's been fun, and it has not stopped yet. And I hope it don't.
Look,
I hope it never will.
That's a beautiful story, brother. I'm not gonna lie. As one black man to another, I'm proud of you.
Thank you, sir.
Like, that's beautiful, that's impressive, and everything that you do, that's dope.
Thank you.
Definitely proud of you. What do you think sets you apart from other teachers, of why you are obviously this teacher of excellence? What sets you apart?
I could say the impact that I make on my students. And listen, it's plenty great teachers out there, right?
Yeah.
But my thing is, I work on building relationships with my students. Before we play one note, it's about building relationships. It's about making an impact. It's about making them wanting to be in my class, right? And so I think that's that may set me apart. Before they walk in my class, we fist bumping each other. Hey, how you doing? And I tell them all the time, like, I'm fist bump you, and that's us saying hi. But this fist bump is bigger than that. This fist bump is it symbolizes that I'm going to be the best teacher for you today, and you're going to be the best student for me today. And that's our agreement when we hit that fist bump. And so that's what I do. I'm just about building relationships with my students.
That's good. Because relationships, and I tell this to all the teachers that I work with, especially the guys that are in the Call Me Mr. program, is that relationships is the most fundamental thing that you can do as a teacher. If you really want, your students to go that extra mile and build a great relationship with them, why do you think relationships are so critical to getting students to go that extra mile? Why do you think that is?
Because they're not going to go the extra mile for you if they don't trust you. They're not going to go the extra mile for you if they don't like you.
Yeah.
And and do all my students like Mr. Day? Probably not.
Yeah.
But do they not like me because I'm just this mean person that's just making their life miserable? No, they don't like Mr. Day because Mr. Day holds them accountable. It's a difference.
Yeah.
But that's just how I feel.
I feel you. So we talked a lot about the good of teaching. Okay. We talk about the joy, but let's talk a little real.
Okay.
Let's talk a little real. Let's talk about some of the negative stereotypes of teaching, because there are folks that are probably watching this and they hear all of these things, but they hear things like the low pay, dealing with parents, how chaotic the job can be. Like, what to you are the most challenging parts of being a teacher day to day to you?
I mean, like you said, the low pay and the having to make quick decisions, split-second decisions. I think it comes down to the resources. Yeah. Like it comes down to the resources. We would love for our facilities to get funded more. Yeah. We would love to be able to purchase stuff without having kids to pay for it. Like, we would love to do all of this. So I think as a band director, I think the biggest thing for me is making sure I have the resources for my students to be able to do what they need to do. And, I have to charge my students a class fee. And I explained it to them and their parents is so they can get the accessories necessary so they can have success on their instrument, right? But that is my biggest thing, having to make sure that I have resources for my students.
Yeah. Do you think that some of these perceptions that we have about teaching, the negative aspects, do you think that could potentially scare off Black students that are considering majoring in education? And if so, what do you think that we got to do to change that narrative and elevate this profession? What do you think that's needed? Because a lot of people think that teaching means that you're going to be in poverty, and that's not the case. Like, right. You have a very good life. What do you think needs to change?
Well, I think, the obvious thing is you got to bump the pay up. A lot of people, and I'm sure you've heard a lot of people, or many people say, "Nah, I don't see how y'all do it. They don't pay me enough to do that." Yeah. And they right. They don't pay us enough to do that. You just have to have a passion for it. You got to have a love for it. And what was the other question again?
Yeah, what do you think that we need to do in order to...
And so, I think what we need to do is start putting a positive spin on education. I go on my timeline, whatever social media platform it is, I'm sure I'm going to see a video of a student fighting a teacher, or a teacher fighting a student, before I see something positive about education on my timeline.
Yeah.
And so those videos are the ones that catch fire, that goes viral and goes viral and goes viral. But you put something positive about education, it might not get as hot as that video did with all the negativity in it. So I think we need to start by painting a positive face on education. Yes, there are issues in education, just like any other job.
Correct, yeah.
Like any other job, right? So we just have to make sure that we need to, whatever positive spin we have, like what you're doing now while Black Men Teach, that is a positive spin on education. We got to do whatever we need to do to put that out there to say, yes, education is tough. It is. But education is also great too. So we just have to make sure that we are just putting a positive spin on it. And it's hard to get away with it because, like I said, the stuff that's on social media. And then, the sitcom back in the day, Saved by the Bell. I might be giving my age a little bit.
I mean, I remember a little bit. I remember a little bit.
It's a sitcom, fun, funny.
Yeah.
But just think about it though. Let's talk about the layers. Like they're in the school. You got they pulling one on these teachers. They pranking them, and the teacher's kind of goofy, and then the principal's just a big dork. It's just like that is not how we are in education. And yes, that might be funny, for the show. But if you go a little bit deeper than that, it's like, that's really not, that's misrepresentation of who we are. And I think some people may kind of take that seriously. And I just, like I said, I have the same attitude about when they put bands on TV. It's always the little dorky bands that everybody want to make fun of. And it's like, that is not how band is. I've been in marching band since 6th grade. It ain't never been like that. Right. So I think it's just we have to watch we just have to highlight the positives of education. I think if we highlight more of the positive educations and stop jumping into all this negativity about education, maybe we'll have some folks that say, I would like to do this.
One of the shows that I really dig, Abbott Elementary. You ever watched some of the episodes?
I watched it. Yeah.
Love Abbott Elementary. There was an episode where the male teacher, I think it's Greg. I think that's it. But there was an episode to where, like, there were young black boys that were in the school. Some that were not even in his classroom started to kind of flock to him.
Yeah.
Wanted to eat lunch in his room. And before he knew it, he kind of had this pseudo type of mentoring program.
Right.
Yeah, and I love Abbott, but to you as a man of color, when you go into your classroom, you go into a school, how important is mentoring young brothers that do look like you? How important is that?
Oh, shoot, that is very important. That is very important because you don't know how much of an impact you're going to have on them. And they see somebody that look like them, they're going to want to try to emulate them. Absolutely. They're going to try to want to be like them. And that's what you want. That's what you want. So it's very important to mentor students of color or black boys, period, or black students, period. Is very important. It's very important. Even if we don't even realize we are mentoring them. You know what I'm saying? It's just important for us to be the model, the standard that they're looking to be, because you just never know what you are going to take them to.
That's true.
You know what I'm saying? You don't know whatever those words you said to them, it might allow them to make the right decision instead of making the wrong decision. You know, whatever skill you might have taught them because you're their mentor might be the skill that make them a millionaire one day. Like, it's just so important. There's so many little things that go into mentoring those students, and it's just very important. It's very important.
I call it like being a nation builder. You know, I'm a little churchy. I'm from the South. But, like, I believe that teaching is on the same level of a preacher that's called to the pulpit. And to me, it is a spiritual thing because there's so much power that a teacher has when you walk into the classroom. Your words can make or shape somebody. That's why, to me, what we do is we are nation builders. What is your why of why you go back into the classroom every single year? What's your why?
Frederick Douglass said, there is no success without a successor. All those teachers and band directors that poured into this little kid from Detroit, I'm paying it forward. Because of what they did for me, I'm doing for the next generation. And that is my why. That is my why, because somebody did it for me. And because they did it for me, I'm able to get the success that I have today. So I owe that to the next generation because they poured so much into me, so I'm going to pour into the next generation. That is my why.
I love that. It reminds me, for me, my legacy that I feel as, a black man is I think about all of the ones that came before me. Family members that were born into slavery. Knowing my father, who was active in civil rights abolition in the South, like I owe it to the ones that came before me to pay it forward, because it's literally because of their sacrifices that I'm even able to sit on this couch with a PhD. Like,
Exactly.
I am my ancestor's wildest dream. And so my question as we wrap up, what do you say to that young black and brown boy that may be watching this and does not know what they want to do with their life? They are on the fence. What do you say to that young brother to make them considering changing the world by being a teacher?
If they want purpose in their lives,
Come on, you about to say something.
they'll walk into the classroom and change some lives. So that's where I found my purpose. That's where I got my passion. And if they're on the fence, they do need to know, on the real, it's tough. It is tough, but it's also rewarding. And they may not see it at that moment. 5 years down the line, maybe 3 years down the line, 10 years down the line, it's going to come back to them. Because all those students that they have touched and they have impacted, those students will be back to thank you. And in that moment, you're going to realize you are shaping the world. You are doing something that, like you said, you have the power to do something in that kid's life that's going to affect them for the rest of their life. So, and on top of that, we need teachers of color out there. Black men, less than 2%. We need the help. And especially if you have all these students of color, representation matters. They need to see themselves in you. And so the only way that can happen is if you're in front of them teaching. And I mean, that is my advice to them. Yeah, but if you want purpose in your life, step into a classroom.
Amen to that. Well, brother, this has been a great conversation. I can't think of a better first guest for this episode. I mean, the stories were absolutely brilliant. So I appreciate you.
Appreciate you having me.
I gotta come by the classroom. I gotta check you out.
Come through.
I already know. You know, shout out to, I'm gonna be a little bit biased. Shout out to the Martian 101 band from South Carolina. I gotta be a little biased.
Okay.
But for any person that's out there that's kind of looking, thinking about teaching, I definitely encourage you to check out Call Me Mr. program here at MSU Denver. Like, we're doing some revolutionary work. So, but this has been our first episode. I definitely appreciate you for tuning in for the very first one. I'm your boy, your host, Dr. Rashad Anderson. Look forward to many more episodes. So make sure you click, you subscribe, because we're going to be bringing that fire more and more and more. All right. Take care. Have a good one.